And meanwhile, it's still fun in Russia itself, where everything takes a long time to reach. In Russia itself, there's euphoria, all these Trump maneuvers, they appeal to both the Moscow elite and the common people. In the neglected regions, they have restored hope for the return of the graceful times of the past. The return of brands, be balls, free shopping abroad, and the much anticipated eradication of the long-awaited, finally completely cursed sanctions is expected. Russians have come to believe that all the doors of the world will once again be open to them, and this image of a fascist-like nation now will somehow evaporate on its own. But the reality, as it turns out, is completely different in its very nature and essence from what we previously understood. It turned out that the largest players in global industry and business have already stated that they are not considering returning to the Russian Federation under any circumstances. The largest German companies have stated that they will not return to Russia, even if the military conflict in Ukraine ends and the sanctions with it. This was reported by Deutsche Welle. And is it really the case there? Global corporations like Siemens, Bosch, Volkswagen, Adidas, and so on and so forth. And all of this is easily explained, the reluctance to return. The fact is that in 2022, thanks to the internet, there was a sensational revelation about Russia. The world saw in detail not its mythical, but its true face. And the war in all its details revealed barbarism, sadism, deceit in quantities that the world had not seen for a long time. And barbarism, sadism, and deceit in general, we know that. There is one name, Russia. And it turned out that in general, it is a very dangerous phenomenon, perpetually obsessed with malice and manias. And these manias and this malice have not dissipated. It became well known that its fundamental primary principle law is indeed lawlessness. At any moment, one can expect war, occupation, mischief, any madness and chaos from it. It must be said that the disappointment immense, and everyone understands that it will never be a civilized territory. And it's ridiculous to expect changes from it. Moreover, it is illogical and utterly absurd to expect apologies. It is such, well, let's say not due to its own fault. It is shaped by its very long and very, well, not very long, but nevertheless sufficiently long and shameful history. And you understand yourself that if you have an 80-year-old woman, it's absolutely, in any conceivable and imaginable way, unrealistic to re-educate this old woman who spent the first 40 years in an asylum and the next 40 years in a maximum security prison. She already has all her manners, habits, and inclinations formed in her life. And they have formed, I must say, definitively and irrevocably. Well, in other words, the internet did the same thing that Captain Cook once did when he discovered the islands of New Guinea, inhabited by eaters of human liver, and shocked the world with it. It must be said that this discovery of Russia, which occurred, was no less shocking. Here, too, there's no need to get emotional, no need to blame Russia. No need to fall into Russophobia. One just needs to understand that this is a given. It must be accepted. One can later share the blindness of the West, which still does not understand that the dismantling of Russia is the most important need of civilization at the moment. And that, well, they don't understand and they don't understand. Well, if they want this nuclear flame and battles near Paris, well, they'll get it. and that we need to stop perceiving Russia as a country of culture and instead see it as a country of eternal concentration camps. Well, listen, what does Russophobia have to do with it? Well, just take some simple facts. Well, even, let's say, in those matters that are most understandable and close to you, you see, all of Russian culture consists of people whom Russia poisoned, suffocated, and expelled, forced to commit suicide, robbed. These are predominantly enemies of the people. Immigrants, first, they were driven to the brink, to suicide, to escape, and then declared the restorers of Russian culture. If a writer lives well under Russian authority, be it one or another, then one should regard them with particular caution, but perhaps only. The exception is Bulgakov, who was ready to live anywhere provided there was an uninterrupted supply of a certain white powder. And even the same, once again, I switched to a language understandable to all, Russian literature and culture, which they so boast about. Well, look, where are the graves of the figures of this culture? After all, practically all of them died in migration. Look, where? Rachmaninov, Tarkovsky, Bunin, Gubrodsky, Zworykin, Sikorsky, Nabokov, Shmelev, Dovlatov, Nabokov, Tarkovsky, Averchenko, Sasha Chorny, Teffi, Ehrenburg, Kortsebashev, Amfiteatrov, Galich, Sikorsky, Kuprin, Tsvetaeva. Well, no other country in the world has shown such sadism and such concentrated, intense, and overwhelming frenzied madness towards its writers, poets, and other literary figures. There, Tsvetaeva returned only to hang herself here. Well, of course, it's strange to make accusations against Russia. It's strange to make accusations against lepers for being sick, but indeed, it's also hard to feel sorry for them because they passionately love this leprosy and passionately infect each other with it. One just has to understand that there is a country where crime is the norm. It's normal to blow up your own houses, their own sleeping ones, as it happened in Moscow. It's normal to kill all the hostages, as it happened during many assaults, starting with Nordost. It's normal to suffocate their submariners, normal to imprison the innocent, normal to imprison intellectuals in execution, normal meat assaults, and so on and so on. Well, of course, there are other people who are prisoners of Russia who cannot leave because they have these terrible shackles, these terrible weights on their feet, property, that really ties them down. There's a lack of language skills and so on.